Let me tell you something that many people will not say out loud. After the age of 70, a lot of things begin to change. Some of them are expected. The body slows down. The memory sometimes plays tricks. The routine becomes quieter. But there is one change that hurts the most. It is not physical. It is not even something you can measure with a medical test. It is the slow, painful realization that people begin to avoid you. People you used to laugh with. People who once looked to you for advice. People you love. One day you wake up and notice that the phone is not ringing as often. The visits have become rare. Conversations feel more forced. And eventually you may start to wonder if people are beginning to hate you. It sounds harsh, but it is a feeling that many seniors carry in silence. I want to tell you that you are not imagining things. There is some truth to what you feel, and there are reasons why this happens. But more importantly, there are ways to change it. You can fix this before it is too late. But to do that, we must speak honestly, and we must look at what science and psychology have uncovered about this part of life. First, we need to understand one simple truth. Human relationships are driven by energy, emotional energy, social energy, and over time, the balance of energy changes. In your younger years, you likely gave a lot of energy to people. You made sacrifices, you showed up, you remembered birthdays, you gave advice, you helped others move through their pain. You were probably a pillar for your family or your community. But after 70, many people stop giving that same energy, not because they do not care, but because they are tired. They feel they have earned the right to rest, to be respected without having to try anymore. But relationships do not work that way. As painful as it is to hear, love and attention must still be nurtured. When people feel that all they receive is criticism, complaints, or stories from long ago, they begin to pull back. Studies from the Gerontological Society of America have shown that older adults who express high levels of bitterness or negative outlook are more likely to experience social withdrawal from friends and even family. It does not mean that your emotions are not valid. Aging comes with loss, fear, and change. It is normal to grieve the past. But if every conversation becomes heavy, people subconsciously begin to avoid them. They do not always realize they are doing it. They just feel drained after spending time together. And in a world where everyone is already tired, that is enough to push them away. Another reason people may begin to avoid you is rooted in control. It is human nature to want to maintain a sense of authority, especially after a life full of responsibilities. But sometimes, without realizing it, this turns into criticism or controlling behavior. You might find yourself correcting people more often, commenting on how they raise their kids, how they dress, how they spend their money. From your perspective, it might be love, concern, guidance, but to them it can feel like judgment, like a reminder that they are never good enough, and eventually they stop coming around. A study published in the journal Psychology and Aging found that adult children often feel emotionally suffocated by their aging parents when they experience repeated unsolicited advice or disapproval. Over time, this dynamic erodes the emotional connection. It creates distance. Again, this is not about blame, it is about awareness. Because once you understand what might be driving others away, you can take small but powerful steps to rebuild those connections. Let me speak to another deep truth. Loneliness in older age is one of the most devastating forces in a human life. And it is not just an emotional burden, it is a health crisis. Researchers from Brigham Young University found that loneliness can be as deadly as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. It increases the risk of heart disease. It lowers immune function. It leads to cognitive decline. When people avoid you, it does not just hurt your heart, it literally shortens your life. But the reverse is also true. When you rebuild connection, when you become emotionally available and curious about others again, your health, both physical and emotional, begins to recover. One powerful way to reconnect is to ask more questions than you give answers. People love to talk about their lives, their dreams, their struggles. Ask your grandchildren about their favorite music. Ask your children about their work, not to judge it, but to understand it. Ask with a genuine heart, and when they speak, do not correct them. Just listen. Listening is love, and when people feel heard, they come back. It is also important to stay interested in what matters to the world today. This is not about pretending to be young. It is about staying curious, Read about what young people care about. Ask them to explain the latest trend or app or idea. When you show that you are not stuck in the past, people see you as wise, not outdated. They admire you for adapting. They feel proud to have you around. Do not underestimate the power of saying sorry. Apologies, even for things that happened years ago, have incredible healing power. If you ever pushed someone too hard, if you ever were absent when they needed you, if you were too harsh in your expectations, you can still say sorry. The window for forgiveness never fully closes, but the longer you wait, the harder it becomes to reach through. People soften when they see humility. They come closer when they feel safe. I know many seniors feel invisible. You might walk into a room and feel like no one sees you anymore. Like your opinions do not matter. Like your stories bore people. And yes, some of that is the fault of a society that worships youth, but some of it we must own ourselves. If we only talk about the past, we become ghosts in the room. People want to share life with someone who is still alive inside. That spark can be rekindled. It is never too late. Do things that surprise your family. Try a new hobby. Write letters. Cook something new and invite them over. Learn something unexpected and tell them about it. Become a storyteller who draws people in, not someone who only mourns what has been lost. Your life is still happening. And when you live with that fire, people gather around you. Sometimes the distance is not emotional. Sometimes it is practical. If your house feels cluttered or unsafe, if your appearance has slipped, if people feel uncomfortable visiting you, it matters. Clean spaces invite connection. Good hygiene, no matter your age, is a form of dignity. Keeping yourself and your environment well does not mean vanity. It means respect for yourself and for those who come to see you. It shows that you value their presence enough to make space for it. I also want to touch on something painful. As you age, you will lose people, friends, siblings, even a spouse. The people who used to know you best may be gone. That loss is real and profound, but you must not let the door to new relationships close. Make friends your own age. Join groups. Volunteer. Get involved. Community is not something you age out of. It is something you re-enter again and again. If you feel people are beginning to hate you, if their absence feels more personal, more bitter, you must ask yourself the hardest question. Have I hurt someone deeply without meaning to? Sometimes what feels like distance is actually a wound that you created, not on purpose, but it happened. Go back if you can. Ask the hard questions. Be open to hearing difficult answers. Healing is not comfortable, but it is necessary. And when you do this with honesty, you give yourself a chance to restore something beautiful. There is also the question of self-love. If you hate what you have become, if you carry regret, if you feel like a burden, that energy leaks into every interaction. People feel what you feel about yourself. You cannot hide it. So the first person you must forgive is yourself. The first person you must learn to love again is the one in the mirror. Speak kindly to yourself. Treat yourself with gentleness. When you do, you begin to attract that same kindness from others. Let us return to science for a moment. In one study from the National Institute on Aging, seniors who maintained strong social bonds lived an average of 7 years longer than those who were isolated. But the key is not just having people around. It is having meaningful connection. That means laughter, honesty, shared purpose. You cannot buy that. You must grow it. And growth requires effort. You still have time. You still have life. People are not as far away as they seem. Many are just waiting for a sign that it is safe to come closer, that the person they loved is still in there, and you can show them, not with words, but with warmth, with small actions, with eyes that look forward and not just back. You are not done, and the story of your life is still being written. Make these next pages count, not just for you, but for those who still need you, even if they have forgotten how to say it. Choose connection, choose curiosity, choose love before it is too late. Why do some seniors end up bitter and alone? And how can you avoid that fate? Let me tell you something that many people notice, but few truly talk about. As the years pass, some seniors seem to grow more peaceful. They smile more. They carry a quiet wisdom. They are surrounded by people who care. But others grow bitter. They become distant, angry, lonely. It feels as if the world has forgotten them. Sometimes they sit in silence, replaying old disappointments. Other times they lash out at the very people trying to love them. And often they do not even understand why it happened. But there is a reason, and if we do not talk about it openly, more people will fall into that same quiet suffering. I want to speak to you from the heart, as someone who has spent decades walking beside aging souls. Not to judge, but to help you understand what is really going on and how you can take steps to avoid that fate. The truth is, bitterness rarely appears overnight. It builds slowly. A missed phone call, a forgotten holiday, a body that no longer moves the way it used to, a partner who passed too soon. Life chips away, piece by piece, and if a person is not careful, those small wounds become part of how they see the world. Over time, pain becomes their lens. Trust me, this does not make someone bad. It makes them human. But it does explain why some people grow hard when they were once so open. One major reason seniors grow bitter is the loss of control. For most of your life, you were in charge. You made decisions. You built a home. You raised a family. You had a purpose every day. But after retirement, after the kids move out, after the roles change, that control begins to slip. And if you have tied your worth to what you did instead of who you are, then it can feel like you are disappearing. That loss is painful. But if it is not addressed, it turns into resentment. You start to believe others have taken something from you, that they do not respect you anymore, that they are trying to push you aside, and that belief becomes poison in your relationships. Another factor is regret. After 70, the past can become louder than the present. Missed opportunities, words left unsaid, people you hurt, people who hurt you. If these memories are not processed with honesty and grace, they begin to weigh down the heart. Bitterness is often just unresolved grief wearing a mask. The problem is, many people do not know how to deal with regret, so they talk about how the world is worse than it used to be. They complain about younger generations. They speak of the past as if nothing good could ever happen again. But that is not truth. That is a defense mechanism, a way to avoid facing their own unfinished emotional business. There is also the role of isolation. According to research from the National Academies of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine, nearly 1 in 4 adults aged 65 and older are considered socially isolated. And loneliness is more than just a feeling. It raises the risk of depression, dementia, stroke, even early death. And it also feeds bitterness, because when no one is around, the mind starts telling stories. You convince yourself that no one cares, that they do not call because they do not love you, that you are invisible. The bitterness builds not because you want it to, but because your heart needs connection and is not getting it. And the longer that loneliness lasts, the harder it is to believe in love again. So how do you avoid that fate? How do you keep your heart soft and your spirit strong even when the world around you changes? First, you must learn to let go of what you cannot control. Aging is not the end of your worth. It is a different chapter. You can still bring light. You can still lead, teach, support, and inspire. But it starts by releasing the need to be the one who runs everything. When you give others space to make choices and you offer support instead of judgment, they come closer. Control pushes people away. Humility draws them in. Second, you must forgive yourself and others. A study published in the Journal of Aging and Health found that seniors who practice forgiveness experience lower levels of depression and better overall well-being. Forgiveness does not mean pretending the past was perfect. It means giving yourself permission to stop carrying its weight. Apologize where you can. But even when that is not possible, release the anger. Write a letter you never send. Speak to a counselor or friend. But do not let old pain define who you are today. Third, stay curious. The people who remain vibrant into their 80s and 90s are not the ones who never got hurt. They are the ones who kept growing. Learn something new. Ask questions instead of giving advice. Explore ideas you do not agree with just to understand them better. When you stop learning, your world shrinks. And when your world shrinks, bitterness has room to grow. Fourth, seek connection even when it feels uncomfortable. Join a group. Call someone instead of waiting for them to call you. Volunteer. Say yes to invitations even when you are tired. The human spirit was built for community. Isolation might feel safe, but it slowly closes the heart. And once the heart is closed, joy has no place to land. Lastly, be honest with yourself. Bitterness is not something we admit easily. But if you feel angry all the time, if you blame others more than you try to understand them, if you believe the best years are behind you and that no one really cares, then it is time to look inward, not with shame, but with courage. You are still here. That means there is still time to heal, still time to reconnect, still time to live. Let me remind you of something powerful. The people around you are not perfect. They are flawed, busy, distracted, but they still need you. They need your love, your humor, your stories, your strength. Not as a relic from the past, but as a living part of their present. You do not have to be bitter. You do not have to be alone. You can choose something different. It begins with one decision: to soften, to reach out, to forgive, to stay curious, to love even when it feels hard. And if you make that choice every day, you will find that life still has beauty left to offer. Even now, even after everything, you are not forgotten. You are not finished. You still matter. Choose to live like it.